Good morning, and welcome to virtual worship with us here at First Parish in Framingham. I'm the Reverend Aaron Stockwell, Senior Minister, and it is my honor and joy to serve this congregation. I am so glad that you are here this morning. Please do say hello in the chat if you haven't already. Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all souls. It doesn't matter your skin color, your age, where you came from, who you love, or how you move around in the world. It doesn't matter whether you dance the night away on New Year's Eve at a dance party for one or two, or whether you toiled away at a job. You are welcome here. It doesn't matter whether you celebrated alone or Zoomed the night away. You are welcome here. Whether you achieved all of your 2020 New Year's resolutions or have already forgotten what your 2021 ones are already, or whether you prefer not to make resolutions at all, you are welcome here. And you are especially welcome here if you enter this year with a mixture of joyful anticipation and uncertainty. But what does matter is that you are right here watching this service, a part of this community. It matters that you affirm and promote the worth and dignity of all. Wherever you are on life's journey, dear one, you are welcome in this virtual but very real community. Now, later on in today's service, there will be two different rituals. So I invite you, if you haven't already, to get a bowl of water, the dissolving paper, the rock, something to write on the rock with. Now is a good time to get it. And of course, if this is your first time visiting us, we are so glad that you are here. There is a link right below this video, where you can fill out a form so we can be sure to get you the information that you need. Or you can email Sarah Morrison Neal at office@uuframingham.org. Please reach out if you need anything. And reach out too if you have a strength or a skill to offer. We are all in this together, and together we will help each other through. Of course, if you are watching this live, immediately following the service will be our Zoom coffee hour. Everyone is encouraged to join us. It would be so good to see your faces. Love has held our congregation together since 1701. It is a love that is larger than any walls or screens. So welcome to the First Parish in Framingham.
Ways of holding me, ever bring us to me.
I share this call to worship, adapted from the words of John Hunter. It is found in the 1937 hymnal, the Red Hymnal, Hymns of the Spirit. Dear God, without beginning or end, the unfailing source of light and mercy who has brought us to the beginning of this year, prepare us in your loving kindness for the coming days. In your grace, enlighten our darkness and strengthen our weakness. Deepen within our hearts the love of truth and goodness. Inspire us with new purpose and new hopes. Enable us to use the wondrous opportunities of these earthly years and to discern the sacred purpose that we are given. Whatever light may shine on shadow fall, keep us faithful to the high resolves of this hour, and preserve us in the fellowship of those who trust, serve, seek, and question you forever. Amen.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue.
Love is the doctrine of our church, the quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
The words for our chalice lighting are written by Lois Van Leer. We light this chalice on the brink of a new year, letting go of what has happened, open and hopeful for what may come, restored, renewed, and ready to live life fully anew. May we move forward with intention. I invite you, if you have a candle nearby, to light it. During these times when we are apart, it is crucial to have rituals that bind us together. As you light the candle, I will light the candle in the chalice in our sanctuary, and the children of our congregation will also light a chalice as well. Once the flame is lit in your home, I invite you to type into the chat box, "The chalice is lit in my home," or "The chalice is lit in our home."
This morning, I'm going to tell you a story about a town named Grudgeville. Now, in Grudgeville, there was once a woman who came and arrived. She was a traveler, a world traveler. She had been everywhere, but never had she seen a town like this. Everywhere she went, down the street, into the stores, at cafes, were all of the townspeople of Grudgeville looking down, shoulders hunched, no eye contact. And on their backs, they carried these massive sacks full of something, clearly weighing them down. Everywhere she went in Grudgeville, she saw these people, but never was she able to meet their eye. Eventually, She went up to one of the townspeople, tapped them on the shoulder, got down to their level, looked in their eyes and said, "Can you tell me what's going on in this town?" The individual shrugged their shoulders as best as they could and said, "Well, whatever do you mean?" And she said, "Well, everywhere I go, all of your townspeople are carrying these heavy, heavy loads on their back. What's inside of your sack?" And the individual said, "Well, there are grudges, of course." She said, "Your grudges? What do you mean by that?" He said, "Oh, well, we all carry our grudges on our backs. All of the things that we hold against other people, we put into our bag and we carry them with us everywhere we go." And she said, "It looks mighty difficult." And they said, "Well, sure, it's not easy to carry these grudges on our backs, but it's what we must do." And the woman looked at the man and said, "Well, whatever do you mean? Why is this what you must do?" "Ah, well, you see, here in Grudgeville, it's a tradition, and we always follow our tradition." And so the woman said, "Well, can I see what's inside of your sack?" And so the individual sat down, reached into the back of their sack, and pulled out a grudge. And she said, "Tell me, what is this grudge that you have here?" And they said, "Well, it's not mine, really. This one belonged to my grandfather. See, years ago, he held this grudge against his neighbor, who refused to loan him a pound of sugar. And so we have carried this grudge in our family for generations." And he stuffed it back into his sack. Thinking for just a moment, she said, I think I know 5 words. 5 words that you could all say and lay down your pack." Now this was intriguing. 5 words, you say? Just 5 words that I could say and put down this heavy load that I have carried for generations? I'm going to go tell the mayor. So off they ran to town hall and told the mayor, "There is a wise woman who has arrived to our town, and she says that if we say 5 magic words, we'll be able to put our sacks down." Now the mayor got very excited. The mayor hobbled, for of course the mayor carried more grudges than anyone else, hobbled to his speaker system and made a wide message to the entire town to gather in the town center, for there would be a most glorious event, the putting down of the sacks. And so the townspeople gathered. They hobbled as quickly as their packs would allow them to the town center, into the square, and at the stage stood the mayor, hobbled, and the wise woman, the traveler. And the mayor made a grand announcement. "Today, my friends, we will lay down our sacks with 5 magic words." And he turned to the wise woman and said, "Tell us, what are these words?" So she approached the assembled group of townspeople, all straining to look up at her. And she said, "The 5 magic words are indeed very special, but you must mean them. You will be saying these words to one another. So I'd like you to turn to your neighbor now and say, 'I'm sorry,' and then 'I forgive you.'" A low murmur went out across the crowd. Could it be that simple? One brave child in the front turned to their neighbor and said, "I'm sorry." And that started a little ripple. Pretty soon, everyone in the crowd was saying, "I'm sorry." And then came the call across the crowd of the 3 more words, "I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you." And these loads began to fall and crumble away. And the townspeople began to stand up straight and tall, and for the first time, see each other. Neighbors were able to look at one another and say, "Jim, is that you? Well, Sandra, I had no idea your eyes were blue." And together, the the town of Grudgeville, right there and right then, with the mayor, decided that they would rename themselves all together. And so they scrubbed off the name above Town Hall, and instead, the town became known as Joy Town. And so I invite you this new year, this new beginning, this new leaf, to lay down some of your own burdens. To whom in your life could you say, I'm sorry? And to whom in your life could you say, I forgive you? The two do not need to be connected. You can apologize for some wrongdoing and not expect forgiveness. And so too can you forgive without an apology. But just perhaps the act of reaching out will inspire all 5 words, and you may lay down that burden and stand just a little bit taller in 2021.
Now is the time in our service that we set aside for the sharing of the things which weigh deepest on our hearts, because we know that sorrow shared is a burden lifted, and that joy shared can be joy expanded. There'll be prompts on the screen that give a little bit more order to our sharing. And do remember that in this public space, privacy cannot be guaranteed. So if there's something a little bit too tender that you think we need to know about still, do write me an email.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
We now move into the time of our service that we set aside for quiet, for contemplation, prayer, and meditation. The words for our prayer this morning are titled A Blessing for the Dark. They're written by Laurel Gray, who serves as the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregational Society of Westboro. When the facade of your so-called worth crumbles, when you find yourself lost in the dark, I hope you take the time. I hope you listen for the sound of snow. Try to taste the sun as it casts sharp shadows over you. Remember, there is space here. Your body still knows how to breathe, how to heal, how to recall your wholeness. When the facade of your so-called worth crumbles, I hope you tell the truth about the wreckage, at least to yourself, and maybe when the time comes to someone else. I hope you dig deep enough into your faith that you find fertile ground underneath the rubble of what never was, that immaculate lie of conditional love. I hope you let it fall. For you have always been made of star sparks and darkness, a being held in balance, born of the very mystery of life. When the facade of your so-called worth crumbles, when you find yourself in the dark, I hope you let it wash over you. I hope you remember parts of yourself you didn't know were lost. I hope you welcome them home amidst that echoing silence. In that still open place, I hope you plant yourself beneath the rubble and wait for spring, for the lavender twilight to remind you of the peace you found in the dark. I also now lift up the joys and the sorrows of our own community. I give thanks for scientists and those who helped with the vaccine development and the distribution process. I give thanks, too, for all of the frontline workers, and I wish for their safety. For all who are injured or ill, I hope for quick healing. I celebrate with Allison and Rupel because Dante was legally adopted on December 22nd. I mourn with Dawn Mendelson and her family after her father's death on December 21st. I mourn with the Uftring family because Ed Uftring died on December 27th. Let us now enter into a time of quiet so that we might pray the prayers of our own hearts, or so that we might rest, or so that we might listen. As we end our time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer, I invite you to take 3 breaths. A breath for the gift of the past, for all that it has given you. A breath for the present, in gratitude for all that you did to make it happen. And a breath for the future that is now and the future that will be unfolding. May it be so, and amen. My colleague, the Reverend Erica Hewitt, writes, "The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It is an opportunity to recommit to this place, which is virtual, and to our people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregations as tools to empower our mission. May the offering be joyfully given and gratefully received." This morning, I want to tell you the story of rain. Rain falling on the mountain. Rain falls as rain must, without calculation and without practice. And the rain continues to fall, going down into a stream bed. There are sticks and stones and rocks in the stream bed. The stream and the water soon learns that the stream that is interrupted by rocks sings most nobly. And soon that rain gets to the desert, and it wants to cross the desert, but it gets stuck in a swamp. The rain complains, "I want to cross the desert." And the wind speaks up. For this is the kind of story where the wind and the rain talk to each other. And the wind says, "Well, you cannot get to where you need to go if you remain who you are. Either you must give yourself over to the wind or stay in the swamp." And the rain, being stubborn, says, "No, I want to remain water." And the wind gently blows again, saying, "You cannot get to where you need to go if you remain who you are. Either give yourself over to the wind or stay in the swamp." And finally, the rain, getting tired of being in the swamp, gives itself over to the wind. The rain transforms into water vapor and crosses the desert as a cloud, where it falls again on the mountain. Rain falls, as rain must without calculation or practice. The stream that is interrupted by rocks sings most nobly. You cannot get to where you want to go by remaining who you are. If you received a care package from the First Parish in Framingham, you'll notice that there are now 2 remaining items in there: a rock and a piece of paper. For this next ritual, I invite you to find that piece of paper. It looks like this. Now, of course, this is just one piece of paper. You may need to tear it for other people. I invite you to write a word or a phrase representing something that you wish to let go of from 2020. When you are ready, I invite you to place it in the bowl of water that you got before. Move that piece of paper around until it dissolves. If you don't have that dissolving paper, that's fine. You can place your hands in the water, maybe wash away what you wish to release from this year. Of course, if you feel comfortable, you could even write what you want to let go of in the chat. Friends, this is just a symbol, of course. You may still hold on to things from this past year, but perhaps in this letting go, you can begin that process. We'll listen to some music that Dean Arvidsson has recorded for as we let our things that we wish to let go of from 2020 dissolve. I now share a story called The Big Rocks of Life, written by Dr. Stephen R. Covey. One day, there was this expert who was speaking to a group of business students, and to drive point to home used an illustration that Stephen Covey writes, I'm sure those students will never forget. After I share it with you, you'll probably never forget it either. As this man stood in front of this group of high-powered overachievers, he said, okay, time for a quiz. Then he pulled out a 1-gallon wide-mouth mason jar and set it on the table in front of him. Then he produced about a dozen fist-sized rocks and carefully placed them in the jar, one at a time. When the jar was filled to the very top and no more rocks would fit inside, he asked, is this jar full? And everyone in the class said, yes. Then he said, really? He reached out from under the table and pulled out a bucket of gravel. Then he dumped some of the gravel in, and shook the jar containing the pieces of gravel to work themselves, causing pieces of gravel rather, to work themselves down into the spaces between the big rocks. And then he smiled and asked the group once more, "Is this jar full?" By this time, the class was on to him and said, "Probably not." One of them replied, "Good." Then he reached under the table and pulled out a bucket of sand. He started dumping the sand in, and it went into all of the spaces left between the rocks and the gravel. Once more, he asked the question, "Is this jar full?" "No!" the class shouted. Once again, he said, "Good." Then he grabbed a pitcher of water and began to pour it until the jar was filled to the brim. Then he looked up at the class and asked, "What is the point of this illustration?" One eager student raised their hand and said, "The point is, no matter how full your schedule is if you try really hard, you can always fit some more things into it." And the speaker responded, "No, that's not the point. The truth this illustration teaches us is that if you do not put the big rocks in first, you'll never get them in at all." What are the big rocks in your life? A project that you want to accomplish? Time with your loved ones? Your faith? Your education? Your finances? A cause? Teaching or mentoring others? Remember to put these big rocks in first, or you'll never get them in at all. So now I invite you to go back to that holiday care package. It's getting pretty empty now. And I invite you to find that rock and some sort of writing implement to mark it. I invite you now to think of a word or a phrase that will serve as an intention for this year. A word or a phrase that when you are feeling a little lost, you can call to mind to serve as your anchor. It may take a while to think of, and that's okay. If you have a rock, I invite you now to write on the rock that word or phrase. And once it is written on there, perhaps put it in a spot where you will see it every day, near the kitchen sink, your bedside table, or somewhere else. If you don't have a rock, perhaps find a piece of paper that you can slip into your pocketbook or purse or wallet. If you feel comfortable, you could also share it in the chat. There will again be some time to think and meditate on that word. it is always important for us to consider the things that we need to release out into the world. It is also always important for us to consider what values serve as ballast. Discerning what values we hold dear is key. I remember in the fallout after the 2016 presidential election, someone wise wrote on the internet, "Write down what you value. Write down who you were before the election, because you might be put into situations where you will be challenged and forced to change who you are." That's partially why I selected the hymn that we'll sing to close the service. How can I keep from singing, or my life flows on in endless song? That final verse seems like over the past couple of years we have sung it with a certain gusto. When tyrants tremble sick with fear and hear their death knell ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? In prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them go winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing? That last verse was made popular by Pete Seeger, who learned it from a family friend, Doris Plen. The intended reference in that final verse is actually intended to reference the House Un-American Activities Committee and the people who testified before that committee. Now, while this year was so incredibly difficult for many of us, and it makes sense to want to grieve and reject and let the door slam shut on 2020, I caution us about that. People still fell in love. People still got married or embarked on new phases of their relationships. Children were still born. People got new jobs. People still found joy amongst the sadness. While New Year's Eve can feel like a day of letting go, New Year's Day can feel like a day of setting intention. It is, after all, a thing that is capitalized on by businesses, gym memberships soar. New kinds of planners are out there promising to help you use your time in the best way possible. New diets as well. That's not what we are going to do here. There is a lot of money to be made in the business of telling you that how you are isn't enough. Beware of the resolution industrial complex, an industry that is only trying to make money off of the message that they are feeding to you, saying that you are not enough. Do remember, dear one, that you are beloved and beautiful just as you are. I'm reminded of what Charles Bukowski wrote. Can you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? Now, of course, while the efficacy of New Year's resolutions is indeed poor at best, an Australian study found that the typical reasons for failing a New Year's resolution were that the goals were simply unrealistic. They were unable to keep track of their progress, or they just forgot about the goals. Others said that they made too many resolutions. Another study from the University of Bristol showed that 88% of all people who made resolutions did not ultimately keep them or achieve them. So if that's you, if you didn't keep or achieve a New Year's resolution, congratulations, human, you are normal. That's why I want to consider intentions instead of resolutions. It's about the things that balance you in the direction that you go in. What rock are you clinging to? What word is on that rock? My friends, watching this wherever you are, as I wrap up this first homily of 2021, it makes good sense to consider, what do you need to let go of from 2020? We have also considered the things that will provide us balance and ballast. May we go forth into this new year with our loads lightened just a little bit, but perhaps also balanced in a new way. May it be so, and amen.
our thoughts together we lean. When friends push in our running fire, how can I keep from singing?
I close with these words of benediction by my colleague, the Reverend Tom Shade. He writes, "My friends, there is a power at work in the universe. It works through human hands, but it was not made by human hands. It is a creative, sustaining, and transforming power, and we trust that power with our lives. That power will sustain us wherever we take it, wherever and whenever we side with love. May we side for peace and justice whenever we take a risk, trust in that power. We are together held by that power." Amen, and go in peace. As we extinguish the flame of our chalice, and as we extinguish the flames in our own separate homes, I invite you to type into the chat box, "I carry the flame," or "We carry the flame."